Sacred Places, the Pantheist Experience, the show where we explore the philosophy of pantheism and the personal experience of nature-centered spirituality. I'm your host, Pafo Ortiz, founder of Biopantheism, the ethics-based codification of pantheism that stresses the importance of biological life and seeks a deeper, more meaningful relationship with the eminent and emergent divinity of nature we call the Omnia. We are all connected, and we are all one.
Hi, everybody. I'm Chandler Klebs, and I'm here again with Pafo Ortiz. And Pafo has a post that he put on his Facebook group, Biopantheism, and he wanted me to read it together with him and discuss it to make sure I understand it, because he says it'll help me understand pantheism better. So, should we just get right into it, Pafo, or is there anything else you wanted to add before we get started?
Yeah, essentially, this post I created a long time ago. It's been updated and edited since, but it's basically just a description. It's like a welcoming description of the philosophy, and it sort of just encapsulates what biopantheism is. And I just thought, it's a pinned post. It's always there. It's got this beautiful image of like this earth heart, and it just really represents like sort of the power and the impact and the beauty and the glory of this idea. And it's always been there. I've always kept it pinned at the top. And I just realized, earlier today that, like, as I was editing it, if you actually read this yourself, it could really clear up a lot of things, and we could actually create a whole discussion out of it, because it's a perfect encapsulation of the belief system and the philosophy. So just as you said, so yeah, go ahead, start reading it, and I would say just anything that you don't understand or you have questions about, just pause, and then we'll talk about it, and then we can keep reading.
All right, that sounds like a perfect plan here. Okay, so biopantheism refers to a form of pantheism that is both old and new, scientific as well as spiritual, mystical, while at the same time rational, emotional, and yet wholly based on logic and reason. Okay, so that's the start, and yeah, I know that you everything with you like it to be simplistic, and you don't want to complicate things, and you need things to be like simple. So yeah, go ahead and take it one paragraph at a time. Yeah,
I mean, did you understand that?
Because well, not really, because here's the deal. Spiritual and mystical,
right.
These words, those are used in my Christian background, of meaning something supernatural, something spiritual, like it's a ghost, like it's an angel or a demon or a dead person, a soul or whatever. And then mystical, I don't even know what that means. And so these words, I mean, that.
Remember, Chandler, that pantheism, and specifically biopan, has taken back these words, these religious terms, and I have, reinterpreted it in a naturalistic way, and I have, they have a new meaning. They have a pantheistic meaning that doesn't have to be associated with the traditional, the traditional false concepts of conventional religions. Remember the article, what true spirituality, on my page, like where I talk about what on my website, when I talk about what real spirituality is, like what it represents, like these words, these meanings.
I think I read it. I think I read it, but it's been a while.
Well, let me read a paragraph just to, because it all relates. The words spiritual and spirituality mean different things to different people, but in the pantheist community, it generally means a heightened awareness of reality, a deeper consideration for the natural world and our place within it, a more pervasive, expansive, and preeminent knowledge of self and the interconnectedness and interdependence of all things, and adding to that, a deeper respect and appreciation for nature, a greater understanding of biological processes, and a more intimate knowledge and awareness of biology, physics, and cosmology, with a very strong emotional reaction to the size, scale, and vastness of the cosmos, all of which leads to humility and an overwhelming sense of mystery, wonderment, and awe. These things also intrinsically motivate inspiration, contemplation, creativity, and a heightened sense of idealism, with a more holistic outlook and a higher level of ethics, morals, and values that are sure to follow. All of this is what I define as spiritual. It has nothing to do with the supernatural world or with any archaic concepts of ghosts, devils, demons, angels, disembodied spirits, an afterlife, or the fanciful notions of heaven or hell. No invented man-made gods or mythology, no mythical fairy tales of supernatural entities. Spirituality is communion with nature, pure and simple. It is connecting with the forces and powers that already exist in the real world, minus any false delusions that religions have created in people's minds and projected onto reality for centuries. Hence, biopantheism is completely naturalistic philosophy. Okay? Does that help clarify some of that?
I think so. So it's about being really connected with reality, being connected with nature.
Being connected with nature, being more aware of the forces and powers in nature, having essentially a deeper consideration for the forces and powers that govern our lives. Yeah, the understanding of the interconnectedness of all things. You already have that. So, according to this definition, I would say that you're already a very spiritual person because you contemplate these things. You actually think deeper about the mysteries of life, about where we came from, why are we here, where are we going, what happens after you die. I mean, this is the work of a philosopher. This is that's why it's considered a philosophy as well as a form of spirituality.
Interesting. I'm a spiritual person. Who knew? Yeah. Okay.
So go ahead and keep reading. Read the next paragraph.
Yeah, sure. It centers around the idea of an immanent, emerging divinity manifesting and expressing itself unconsciously through all life forms and coming into personal awareness and coherence presently through us. With this knowledge, we contemplate our ineffable origins and postulate on what it really means to be human. For us, nature and the universe represent the highest source of power, the highest source of intelligence and creativity, and we honor and respect the divinity inherent in all. Okay, let's see. So
go back up to the first sentence because I'm sure you have questions about the words immanent, emergent, and divinity. Go ahead.
Yeah, because I don't know what immanent means, and I have an idea what emergent means.
Okay, immanent means it's all around us, it's within us, it's pervasive. It literally is an attribute of the traditional God of theism, meaning that omnipresent. It's almost the same thing as omnipresent. But it means that it is within you, it is outside of you, it is everywhere. So that's the definition. It's an attribute, a characteristic, or a quality of divinity that is basically saying God is everywhere, God is in all things. And remember, we're talking about nature, and that's true. Nature is everywhere. Nature is in all things, in our bodies, outside of us, all around us. Literally pervasive, literally everywhere. That's what immanent means.
Yeah, and so emergent, what does that mean?
Okay, emergent means something that is in the process of developing, something that's in the process of growing, something that is unfolding and manifesting. The intelligence of a child is emergent. The growth process of a plant is emergent. It's literally in the process of transforming, transitioning. Like we say, we're open and we're open to accept new and emergent information. So like what we know today will not be what we know 20 years from now. Like essentially, knowledge is emergent, wisdom is emergent. As you go through life, you learn more things, you develop. It's the idea of an increase of knowledge, or like an ascension to something. So emergent means it's developing, it's in process.
Yes.
So again, just to be clear, we're talking about nature. nature is emergent, and the intelligence in nature and the awareness of nature is emergent. It is manifesting, unfolding, developing, becoming more conscious of itself through conscious organisms like us. So, I mean, up to this point, would you say that you agree? I mean, I think we've discussed this many times.
Yeah, I think so. So basically what we're talking about nature or the universe that is ever-growing, ever-changing, and learning stuff.
Yes.
And, which is quite a contrast to, other religions that have like a God that already knows everything and does not change.
Very important point. Very important point. The God of pantheism is not static. The God of pantheism in some ways is an infant, in other ways is a genius. The God of pantheism isn't all-knowing and completely coherent and cohesive right now. It is developing as life develops. That's a very important point, because remember the traditional conventional religions have an idealized personified notion of this immortal being that already has infinite knowledge, that is already omniscient, and that's not true of the pantheist God of Omnia, of the God.
And that's why it's good we're doing this, Pafo, to make that distinction, to express the difference between biopantheism and the Abrahamic religions that people are familiar with.
Yes, and I know you might take umbrage with the word divine as well, but I think I've explained this to you in the past, but I have a few paragraphs that can explain that as well. Look outside at the trees, look at plants and flowers, look at other people, look at life, look at the moon and stars, see the gigantic ball of fire over your head creating heat and energy to fuel the earth, allowing all things to thrive and grow. That is what I believe in. Now look in the mirror at this incredibly complex and subtle organism that functions autonomously and self-regulates and heals and grows and thinks and breathes and is intelligent, cognizant, and self-aware. That is what I call divine. Why? Because nature and the physical universe represent the highest source of inspiration, the most powerful and profound and complex and intelligent thing in existence, inherently supernal, not supernatural, supernal, and more extraordinary than what is commonly thought. Has created us, given us life, and it is what pushes and pulls us to evolve. It is all-powerful and should be honored, not worshipped, but honored. The universe is more than what is commonly thought, and nature is really what all people throughout history have mistakenly worshipped as God. Just to reiterate, when I say nature is divine, I'm not implying something supernatural. No, divine in the pantheistic context, means supernal, not supernatural. It means the greatest, most intelligent, most impressive, and powerful thing there is. And only nature and the universe fit this description. Consider how extraordinary DNA is in the autonomous healing of our bodies. The DNA, which is the most complex and incredible system of information, that like encoding information, like computations that go on in the brain, these things are beyond anything that we can create. You can literally create a whole new human being via one strand of hair. Plants and animals are all fractal in nature, so one part simultaneously represents the whole and vice versa. This self-regulating nature of living organisms and how every biological entity unconsciously seeks physiological homeostasis, all of these things and more are what make life and nature divine.
Yeah. See, I think how I'd sum that up is, well, basically your last paragraph in the paragraph I just read, where it says nature and the universe represent the highest source of power, the highest source of intelligence and creativity, and we honor and respect the divinity inherent in all. So basically what this says to me is it's the best thing. It's like the most powerful thing, like the ultima, let's
say it's the most impressive thing. It's the most important thing, and it's the most impressive thing. And I can already hear people saying that just gets into so much abstraction. But again, we're not just talking about everything in existence. We're talking about the forces and powers that allow for existence to take place. Initially, the forces and powers that are at work in the natural world that are antecedent of our own intelligence, not just every single thing in existence, because obviously there's polarity, there's distinction. We have good and bad things that are pleasurable, things that are undesirable.
Right.
in reality. But we're talking about what makes a plant grow, what makes a body heal, what allows life to proliferate and reproduce, even though we agree humans should reproduce.
Okay, yeah, so here's how I would say it is, okay, yeah, sure, there are different things that happen that are desirable or undesirable, but when talking about power, nature or the universe are the most powerful thing. There is no higher power than the universe, and
it's like whenever someone speaks about their invisible God, their invisible man in the sky. I mean, the things that they attribute to God should really rightly be attributed to nature, because it's nature that they're talking about. Like we're talking about that nature is all powerful. That the only thing that's truly all powerful is nature, not some idealized mental construct. And just to clarify, when I say nature is divine, I don't mean it is a God. I mean it is God, in the sense that it is the most powerful, most complex, and beautiful thing there is. That's omnipotence. That just so happens to be incomprehensibly large and everywhere at all times. That's omnipresent. Imbued with supernal intelligence, omniscience, but it's an emergent form of omniscience. And due to Einstein's law of conservation, energy cannot be carried or destroyed. It is essentially eternal. And these are all the attributes typically attributed to God.
Yeah, I see that. And see, the important point that I want to make to anyone who listens to this is that nature created God, not the other way around. And here's why. Because it was humans who wrote the holy books, humans and their imagination that enabled all the gods of all the world religions. And for that reason, since we are nature, and nature made us be what we are, nature therefore created God, even though everyone else of those other religions say that God created nature. They've got it backwards.
Nature made everything, and nature made us, and we are nature, and we came up with the concepts of God. So that's the true sort of chronology, hierarchy of it right there.
Yeah. Just wanted to correct that. Yeah.
So where did you leave off? And we honor and respect the divinity inherent in all.
Yeah.
Now you understand. Now you understand what true divinity means, right?
I think so. Let's hope I remember it. So should we continue then?
Yeah.
Okay. Focusing expressly on the human condition and what is relevant and meaningful in relation to biological organisms and their surrounding ecosystems, we recognize and acknowledge the fundamental truth that the universe is divine and we are all one. Not only do we make this extraordinary claim, but we are also ready to verify and confirm this ultimate and profound mystery through science, astronomy, biology, quantum physics, intuition, and practical real-world observation. Okay, so about us all being one. Of course, I already agree with that, Pafo. That's a pretty obvious one. And let's think about this. First of all, we're all causally connected because everything that one life form does affects everything else. There's cause and effect everywhere. So nothing happens in a vacuum or isolated. So that's one way. We also understand that literally all life forms are biologically related. We're all really members of the same family.
I'd like to speak on that point with this paragraph when I say pantheism essentially is the belief that all of nature is divine, that the universe as a whole is an interconnected system made up of one substance, which is energy matter. It's the same thing, energy matter. On a subatomic level, all matter is actually vibrating particles, and as you go on the quantum scale, it's actually energy stemming from the same source, the Big Bang. We believe that nature is divine and we are all a part of nature. We believe the universe itself is God, but not in the sense that it is a personal, conscious, or coherent entity. Okay, so that speaks to the idea of monism, that like what you were just saying, that one of the key tenets of Biopantheism is that everything is one, because scientifically we know that everything came from the Big Bang. The singularity that existed before the Big Bang is the source of everything that's in the universe right now. So we're all literally made up of the energy, the essence that existed in the Big Bang. That exploded into existence at the moment of the Big Bang.
Yeah, well, I'm still not exactly clear on the Big Bang because, it's funny because I just watched a video on the Big Bang that Jamie shared on my timeline. But
yeah.
I mean, it's interesting, absolutely fascinating, but I still don't know if I understand or agree that the Big Bang happened. Like, it's interesting because
the good thing about science, Chandler, is it's true whether you believe it or not. We know that the Big Bang occurred because we have evidence of it with the radiation, the microwave background radiation. We can judge, we can test. We know that it was 14 billion years ago, and we're still seeing the evidence of it because of the expansion, because of how all the galaxies are moving further and further away. So it's kind of like reverse engineering. They trace it back to that singular point in space and time.
Yeah.
But the only reason that it's difficult to understand is because you're probably grappling with where did everything come from? How could everything come out of nothing? But remember, in my model, the toroidal cyclical model, everything didn't come out of nothing. Everything has always existed in some form or another. See? So what was before the Big Bang was just everything that exists in potential or in a different form. And we can only speculate about that.
Yeah, see, and that's the thing about it is that I absolutely reject the idea of something coming from nothing. And
right.
so many people characterize the Big Bang as that way. Oh, there was just nothing, and then all of a sudden nothing exploded, and then we have all these planets and stars.
Chandler, have you ever looked at an hourglass? Have you ever looked at like a timekeeping hourglass?
Well, yeah, I've seen an hourglass before.
The shape, right? It's almost like the symbol for infinity is a figure 8. Well, like the hourglass is like this at the top and like this at the bottom. And that little narrow center in the middle where the sand passes through, and it's perfect because this is the torus. It's exactly what the torus is. That little narrow point in the middle, that's the Big Bang. This part that's going out this way, you can go either way. You can go like this or like this. That narrow point is the Big Bang, and what's on the other side of that? It's a container full of sand. And what's on the other side of it the other way? It's a container full of sand or emptiness. See? But like the idea is the sand exists on both sides, and what you have, we're looking back at that funnel, that tight, that moment in time where everything was condensed. That's all it is. What's on the other side of this reality is another reality, just something that we can't comprehend. But the potential or the quantitative essence that's of everything that exists has always existed. That's why I reference Einstein's law, the conservation of energy.
So basically, we're all the sand that passed through the hourglass.
Sure.
Yeah, that works for me. Yeah, I just know that I'll never fully understand. I don't know what background radiation is. I don't know any science. You understand that, right?
No, I didn't know that. You weren't aware of that. The Big Bang created an echo that we can still observe today. It's partly what makes up the white noise on a TV when there's no channels and it's just like the static. They can observe and they have detected this echo, and after a couple hundred some years, we're not going to be able to hear this anymore, but we can still hear the echo from the Big Bang. That's the simplest way to put it, and that's what the background radiation, the redshift effect in the background radiation is. Go ahead.
Yeah, the thing with me, and I think this is an important point, Pafo, is that the only people who understand that kind of stuff completely are the scientists who have gone to college. They've gone to so many years of school. They've done the experiments. They know how these things are done. So basically what it comes down to is when it comes to them determining the so-called age of the universe or age of the earth, the rest of us, including me, are just taking their word for it
we
because
have to take,
we can't understand.
We have to take their word for it. Yeah,
right.
I agree.
Right, and that's my point. And so all I'm saying is that I make no claim to understand it well enough to agree with it. You know what I'm saying? That's an important thing.
Sure. Later on, I can demonstrate just by having you hold a piece of fruit in your hands how my model, my theory of everything is actually valid and lines up in the actual world with what we observe.
Yeah.
But go ahead. But like that last sentence, remember, we're ready to verify and confirm this ultimate and profound mystery through science, astronomy, biology, quantum physics, intuition, and practical real-world observation. So okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So that's important that science backs this up. I just don't understand it. Yeah. Okay. So this is a form of pantheism that exalts and honors nature, living systems, and the biological processes of the earth, and places its emphasis on life in the physical world and the application of pantheistic principles and ethics in a practical, everyday sense, as well as on a much broader global scale. Okay, let's see if I have any questions about this or not.
That's pretty. I mean, that's pretty easy to understand. Right? That was probably the abstract paragraph in there.
Yeah. I think I'm fine with that. That doesn't say all that much, really. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's important, but it's not really confusing.
Well, yeah. I mean. Well, our focus is on this life basically, and ethics, and
and exalting and honoring nature, where the emphasis is. I guess something to note is that pantheistic principles and ethics. That's actually my own distilling of it, because remember, pantheism doesn't have ethics, it doesn't have principles. It's just the belief or the awareness or the theological notion that the universe is actually God. That's all pantheism states. So my own interpretation of pantheism is that the natural world is divine, the natural world is sacred. Nature, plants, and animals, and the earth should be considered holy and should not.
Yeah. So in other words, you could say that biopantheism is like the C++ of pantheism.
It's pantheism 2.0 or pantheism. Like taken to the next level.
Right. Yeah. See, the example I'm using is based on like the programming language, because see, there was a programming language called C that's been used since the 70s, but then later on, this guy invented C++, which added all these other features, like classes, types of objects, and it was incredible. And so I thought people who are programmers might actually understand that, because basically what we're saying is biopantheism. It adds ethics, it adds a realistic form of morality or ethics, and we'll be getting more into that, it looks like, in the next paragraph here. Okay, so should I continue?
Yeah, go for it. I guess real quickly, I would just say it includes environmental ethics, animal rights, holistic health, and veganism. Veganism as the natural extension, the natural progression of this belief. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the important point for me. Okay. It asserts that ethics and morality naturally stem from this belief system, and contends that for this reason, as well as many others, it should be passionately fostered and promoted. This teaching is likewise represented and expressed by a profound love of nature and a perpetual love for the earth, as manifested through altruism, environmentalism, wildlife conservation, religious naturalism, and deep ecology.
Yeah, I guess I kind of paraphrased that before you read it. It's the same thing. Are you familiar with the terms religious naturalism, deep ecology?
Those terms I'm not familiar with.
Okay, essentially the best way I could describe it is naturalism is the antithesis of supernaturalism. It's saying there is no afterlife, there's no God or devil or heaven or hell or demons or angels. There's no spiritual world. All that exists, it's realism, it's materialism. Not reductionism, but materialism. And it's essentially saying that the material world, the physical world, as we've been speaking about, the laws of nature, the forces and powers extant in the natural world, that actually is what deserves religious reverence. And that is something that many groups, throughout history have understood, have cultivated, and now there's a resurgence of this understanding in religious naturalism or spiritual naturalism, where people they maintain they want to have communion and fellowship with others of like-minded philosophy. They want to engage in some form of ritual or some form of tradition that helps that, again, spirituality that connects them to the greater mysteries and the ineffable and the numinous, what is beyond you, but is unexplainable, and religion's attempt to explain. So religious naturalism is exactly what it sounds like. It's a naturalistic form of spirituality. It's not worshiping nature, but honoring and respecting and having a form of religion or a form of spirituality that is completely opposed to supernaturalism and religious dogma and conventional religions. But it's earth-centered essentially. And deep ecology is that. It's the same thing as it's ecology 2.0. It's ecology taken to the next step. Understanding natural processes, life cycles, the seasons, living systems, biological organisms, and our relationship with them. The preeminence of understanding and appreciating our relationship as a not as isolated entities, but as living in symbiotic relationship with the world around us. So these things, they're all incorporated into Biopan. They represent what Biopan is on a tangible level, like how we interact with the real world. This isn't just some pseudo intellectual thing. We're just typing our computers, trying to sound smart. Like, we're out there in the world experiencing these things, and we're teaching it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Paul, for you're sounding smart, I'm sounding like an idiot here.
No, man, it's cool. It's cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we're doing this.
Yeah, that's why we're doing this, because see, for me, a lot of these words that you use are words that I never use ever. Like I never use like the word spirituality or religious, and I certainly never use a word like ecology. Like I'm.
I mean, you know what ecology is,
Well, not exactly. I know what an economy is, but what's ecology?
Hang on a sec. What economy is, but you don't know what ecology is?
Yeah, it's not a word that you hear every day.
Ecology is the branch of biology that deals with the relations of organisms to one another and to their physical surroundings. It's a political movement that seeks to protect the environment, especially from pollution. That's it. It's a branch of biology that deals with the relationship of organisms to one another and their physical surroundings, the environment, the ecosystem. That's why it's eco. That's all ecology is.
Like eco-friendly, right?
Yeah. Ecologically minded. So deep ecology is sort of a spiritual, an environmental movement and a philosophy that regards human life as just one of many equal components of a global ecosystem. And that's holistic thinking. That's deep ecology is a huge part of Biopan. It recognizes that we're not alone, that we're not isolated in this experience, and that we share the earth. We share our environment with countless other living beings. So it's the opposite of egocentrism. It's biocentrism, life-centered. It's the opposite of.
Because that's why we're vegan, because we consider the other animals, and when we have to consider the plant life too for very varying reasons of
absolutely
okay.
The oceans, the air, all of it. I mean, it's all pertinent. It's all meaningful. Okay.
So let's see now. Where was I? I was Okay, I lost my place here.
It's
Okay,
religious naturalism and deep ecology.
Okay, yeah, there I was. Okay, and then I'll continue here. It is this transcendent awareness of the interconnectedness and interdependence of all things that elicits the deepest feelings of reverence, wonderment, and awe in those who take the time to carefully observe and actively participate in the many miracles that exist all around them, in the micro world as well as in the macro.
Do you know what transcendent means?
Well, not really.
Transcendent just means beyond what is normal or beyond average. It's something. I've always made this point from the very first episode we've ever done. I said I do not believe in a transcendent world, a transcendent realm, but we can have a transcendent experience. So when you're moved to tears by the sight of a beautiful cascading waterfall or sunset, or you're reading poetry, or you connect, something touches you very, very deeply, like music or film, or some kind of experience that really transforms you. We're talking about a transformative experience. That's what transcendent means. You are transcending the mundane. You are moving beyond the ordinary into the realm of extraordinary. So it is this extraordinary, transcendent awareness of the interconnectedness and interdependence of all things that elicits the deepest feelings of reverence, wonderment, and awe. Reverence and wonder and awe. This is what a child experiences, and it's literally just beaten out of them, and to conform to our culture, our society, which is completely void of all of this. It's void of all of the experience of wonder. So we have to escape, and we have to continuously do drugs and entertain and occupy ourselves to cope with the bitter realities of life, when reality itself is quite extraordinary and worthy of reverence and appreciation all on its own. And I don't mean just the experience of whatever it is we're feeling or whatever we're going through, just life itself. I mean of living systems, of nature itself, when you observe nature. So there needs to be, you definitely have to have a more I don't know how to explain it, a more wilderness geared mentality, appreciating the rustic and the natural things. If you're in a cubicle 10 hours a day, and then you go home and you just watch TV, it's pretty certain you're not going to have a pantheistic awareness of life. Maybe you'll watch shows on Discovery Channel, Animal Planet, and you'll see you'll see things that have to do with wildlife or evolution and stuff, and you're like, oh, that tends to be a mental, just a mental sort of assent to something, and not an experiential awareness of wonder and awe. So I want to cultivate it and sort of reinstill that natural inclination toward curiosity and exploration, because those are the things that make life worth living. That's why we read. That's why we hike. That's why we go camping. That's why we travel. That's why we explore. That's why we get to know new people and experience different relationships. It's novelty. It's learning something new. It's experiencing, knowing what's around the corner, what's at the top of the mountain. So.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. When considered mindfully and examined contemplatively, this awareness can and will lead to the highest level of ethics and morality attainable. Driven and motivated by a keen understanding of the true nature of reality, we shine and glow as enlightened beings, illuminating the path for others and encouraging free thought, inquiry, education, and the expansion of knowledge. Yeah.
Any questions or any thoughts? Anything you want to reflect on with that one?
I mean, that's pretty straightforward right there, I think.
Sure. That it's essentially saying that this philosophy, this awareness, leads to enlightenment. It leads to you're driven and motivated by this understanding, this awareness of the true nature of reality, and we become a light. We become an example. We become a beacon to others. Like encouraging as opposed to discouraging, like what Abrahamic religions do. We are encouraging free thought and inquiry and education and the expansion of knowledge, not touting faith as a virtue and blind obedience and servitude, but the opposite. That what life does, it expands, it grows, it's always in a constant state of emergence. And so we mimic and we look to the natural world for our ideal, our example of how we should conduct ourselves and how we should be. So this is the opposite of what most of the oppressive religious systems do, which is just give you a set of facts, tell you this is where all the answers are, don't question, just trust and obey. And that's how slaves are made. So we know that's not that's not desirable to those who are really seeking to evolve and expand their consciousness.
Right. So it's just very different. Okay. We commune with nature to elevate our minds and our consciousness. We promote science, evolution, and a deep reverence for life. Working together as one cohesive whole, we encourage one another to actively participate in group discussions and contribute in any way they can. Our goal is to positively influence others and share this message of hope and inspiration with the world. Okay.
Sounds good?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Sounds like something you want to be a part of, right?
Yeah. Okay. We see the earth and all of her living systems as something sacred and holy to be cherished and protected forever, even as we cherish and guard our own bodies from destruction and harm. Join us as we celebrate life, the invaluable lessons it has to teach us, and the profound wisdom derived from assiduous study of the natural world.
Assiduous, in case you don't know, just means very diligent, very, very attentive, working very hard at something. That's all it means. Long hours, all of your attention, all of your focus, all of your energy and time is put into this.
Yeah.
That's the idea.
So it has nothing to do with an ass.
No, it's assiduous. It means I was assiduous in my contemplation of Chandler's autism because I couldn't understand it, but now I do.
Okay, yeah, I'm disappointed because I like donkeys. Okay, and so motivated by compassion, compelled by reason, and convicted by science with a profound and inexplicable desire to connect, we ritually commemorate the seasons, respectfully learn from the past, amiably look forward to the future, and wholeheartedly embrace the present.
You like that?
Yeah.
It's an acceptance of all things. It's the inexplicable desire to connect, meaning we all have, people used to say, you have a God-shaped hole inside of you, and the only thing that's going to fill it is Jesus. The only thing that's going to fill it is God, and your personal relationship, right, with Christ. But it's the same thing. We all do. We yearn for deeper meaning, for understanding our place in the grand scheme of things. We long for a greater connection, a deeper, more meaningful, sort of pervasive, all-encompassing inclusion into something. And I'm here to say, you already have it because you're a biological entity. You're a product of nature. You are a representation of life itself, and that is profound. And we need to stop and contemplate that and think about that. The idea of ritually commemorating the seasons, as the pagans do, as neo-pagans and Wiccans and Druids do, that recognizing the life cycles and trying to get in tune, get in touch with the natural world around us. It's very important. We're very disconnected in our modern society from all the things that really truly matter. And this is harkening back to the idea that it's not a bad thing to observe meteor showers and eclipses and solstices and equinoxes, because in ancient times these things were sacred events. They were sacred times of commemoration, and it literally helped ground people and stay connected to the earth and to each other. They were the original source of holidays. And I'm saying, let's bring that back and let's let it revolve around living systems and life cycles of nature, not on fanciful, invented mythology from the past. Not on events and happenings that were so long ago. I mean, there's no credible way to substantiate the things that they're supposedly celebrating. Let's celebrate the here and now and life, and the cycles and the seasons, and sort of attune ourselves with that, and keep in step with the rhythms of nature. This is the way Native Americans live. I think that it's prosperous and salubrious to do so.
Okay. Yeah, let's see. Meaningfully, passionately, and reverently, we honor the ineffable all and acknowledge the wondrous diversity and complexity within the similitude of our differentiated collective being, striving ever and always to evolve and progress in order to develop a deeper and more inspired awareness of the divine whole. This is our source. This is our life. This is who we are.
Yeah, you recognize that, right? Because that's the intro to Sacred Places.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's the exit. It's the exit. It's just the
it's the exit. At the end of all of our sacred places, you say that.
So real quick, I just wanted to go back because I actually skipped something from the paragraph before that. We amiably look forward to the future. So this isn't a philosophy that causes you to think negatively about anything. It represents hope. It represents inspiration, and we have a very positive outlook because we know that nature is always in the process of evolving, and we're always becoming something greater and more. And so we don't dread the future. We don't regret the past, and we don't escape the present. That was kind of that last sentence there in the preceding paragraph. But okay, so this last one. Meaningfully, passionately, reverently, we honor the ineffable. Ineffable just means it's very difficult to understand, very difficult to grasp, very difficult to comprehend, but it exists. We honor the all, which is another word for nature or omni, and acknowledge the wondrous diversity. Diversity, obviously, biodiversity. We're speaking of all of the multitudinous life forms, plant life, animals, every form of carbon-based life that's on this earth, and can you even comprehend or fathom trillions and trillions of other life forms on other habitable planets out there? It's mind-blowing. So that's the diversity and the complexity. Obviously, you examine the human body, examine any living system. It's incredibly complex and subtle. Within the similitude, meaning there is sameness, there is oneness, there is unity, there is homogeny. Even though there's so much distinction and there's so much biodiversity, there is similitude. There is sameness, oneness. We look into the eyes of a cat or a dog or a sheep or a cow or a pig, and we know that they feel pain, they suffer just like we do. They experience many of the same emotions, the same range of emotions that we do. So we're representing a true acceptance of the other, so to speak. That's what that means. As we evolve and progress, in order to develop a deeper and more inspired awareness of the divine. So, any questions, or how do you feel about that? Anything to add?
I mean, I don't have any problem with it. It just seems so. Well, just so many words,
Too many words, or you have too many words that you want to say?
Well, both. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about it, but real quick, this is something that I added as through experience. I needed to add a kind of a list of stipulations. So really quickly,
I see. I don't
think that you're going to have a problem with any of these. I think we pretty much are, we are on the same page when it comes to these things. But go ahead and read that just so that the listeners can understand what. Let's say these are the things that I'm not dogmatic, but these are the things that I am adamant about, that I don't promote or endorse, and these are the things that I'm against. Put it that way.
Yeah,
And these are things that are not acceptable in my group, in my online group, to discuss and talk about, or to try and pontificate any of these things, because I've experienced a lot of disagreements, a lot of conflict because of it. And essentially, none of these things. This is not what Biopan represents. So that's essentially what it means. So go ahead and read that list.
Okay. Not included in this philosophy are 1. Supporting and promoting Christianity, Judaism, or Islam. 2. Supporting and promoting recreational drug use. 3. Supporting and promoting the meat, egg, and dairy industry. 4. Supporting and promoting supernaturalism. 5. Supporting and promoting New Age mysticism. 6. Making naturalistic fallacies and appeals to nature. 7. Maintaining a stance of moral relativism. 8. Not caring about animals or the environment. 9. Not respecting life or viewing nature as sacred and divine. 10. Believing pantheism means the acceptance of all belief systems.
That's a big one. I had a lot of trouble with that with other pantheists. A lot of people, they're really called omneists. They have this mistaken concept that the all in pan means all religions, that it means that we believe in all religions, and every religion is somehow true on a certain level. I disagree with that entirely.
That's absolutely impossible.
So that last paragraph there.
Yeah. So the last paragraph where he said these subjects may be cordially discussed, but they are not up for debate. Anyone seeking to do any of these things will be given a polite warning. After that, if they persist, they will be removed. No exceptions. This is to ensure the focus, direction, and stability of the group. Thank you.
Yeah. So again, this is just on the Facebook group. These are the contingencies that are just necessary in order to keep the group focused and aligned, and everyone that I accept into the group, essentially everyone that I add has to read this entire statement and agree with all these things ahead of time in order to be included in the group. So I'm putting this out there ahead of time so that these issues and problems and conflicts don't come up later on. So no one is obligated to join, and I basically sort of nip it in the butt before it even happens. The people in my group are only people who have essentially acknowledged this, and who are complying with these sort of regulations.
Although I'm pretty sure you had already added me before I read that.
I added you because I always believed and had faith that you would eventually see the light.
I see. Yeah. Well, I mean, what I like about these 10 things you listed here is it's easy to define something by what it is not. I like that, because for me that's a big thing. I mean, because just as veganism is defined as not exploiting and hurting animals, and atheism is not believing in this man in the sky of the Abrahamic religions. I think that this helps sum it up, because if you're defending the meat, egg, and dairy industry, then you're not having a respect for life. You are. Exactly. You don't get the oneness yet if you're doing that. Yeah.
And I've gotten some flack about this, like, this is you're being a dictator and all this kind of stuff. Well, every single Facebook group out there has a list of rules, has a list of guidelines to follow. So this is mine. I'm just doing it in a kind of what's the word? It's not negative in the sense that it's bad, but in a negative sense, I'm saying this is what it's not. So you can have a clear, like as you just said, you can have a clear picture of what it is. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. Well, one thing I want to say, Pafo, and this is something very important, is that everybody has their rules. They have their policies of what they will and will not tolerate, whether it's a Facebook group, whether it's a business, or whether it's in the relationships with other people in general. People have certain things that
you have to, man. You have to have in order to have structure, in order to have any any kind of coherence. And this is exactly what was lacking in the big pan groups and the giant, massive Facebook pantheist groups. There was no cohesion. There was no direction whatsoever. You had all kinds of people, and it was just chaos. Yeah. So my group was very specific and focused. It says that in the beginning. This is a focused movement.
Yeah. See, what's interesting though, and this is the main point, Pafo, is that almost everybody, they accept that rules and laws are necessary in several contexts. But as soon as somebody's vegan and is not going to tolerate the exploitation of animals, then they criticize them and call them a dictator. I mean, it's really hypocritical for people to criticize that. Yeah,
it's actually along the same lines as antinatalism. The idea that that's your personal choice. There's nothing more personal. I just read this in the post. There's nothing more personal than what you do with your body. I'm like, no. If it involves bringing into existence an entirely new life form, then no, you are not this. You are not in an isolated situation here. Yeah. You are affecting everyone.
Right, and that's just it. What you do with somebody else's life is not your personal choice, basically.
yeah. So to bring it back around, like with veganism, they're so offended because they think that we're imposing our ethics, our morality on them, telling them what to eat and what not to eat. And we've heard this before, and it says, I'm not telling you what to eat, what not to eat. I'm telling you who I defend.
Yeah.
I'm telling you who I care about. I'm telling you who you should care about, just for the sake of decency, for the sake of all the things we've been talking about, the similitude of all biological life. It's unethical. It's not about whether they're smart or they can perceive this or that, or how their cognitive abilities or their sense of self. It's, can they feel pain? Can they suffer? Like are they sentient? Do they have the same experiences as us? No matter how rudimentary, elementary it may be, we need to honor and respect life.
Yeah.
There's one point I wanted to say, that number 5, you may have not caught this, but the idea of supporting and promoting New Age mysticism. There's a lot of my language and a lot of what I talk about where it sounds, in Biopan, it sounds very mystical, and a lot of it sounds very New Agey. The universe is conscious. I mean, I've never actually said that the universe is conscious. I don't believe that. I believe the universe is becoming conscious. But like in New Age circles, they believe in it's the idea of panpsychism, that everything is literally conscious. And I say that everything has a level of awareness, but not everything is conscious. But there are many people that speak in mystical terms, or will sort of incorporate New Age concepts, idea of chakras, and a lot of Eastern mysticism, the ideas of reincarnation, like an ascension of consciousness, a shift in consciousness, energetic frequencies, light beings, all these things. I like the New Age movement. I appreciate it for what it represents, because there's a lot of truth in it, and it's a do-it-yourself kind of philosophy that's getting away from the sort of the structure and the authoritarianism of the dogmatic Abrahamic faiths. So it's a good thing, because it allows people to essentially explore spirituality on their own. So I don't reject it outright, but the idea of supporting and promoting it in this group, where they have concepts such as reincarnation, or I'm trying to think of certain things. Basically, unsubstantiated claims. We're rejecting those unsubstantiated claims, but I'm not as completely against it as I am with Christianity, Judaism, Islam. Because I understand that it's what's it's what's out there. Not people haven't heard of pantheism yet. All they have is New Age mysticism. All they have is like Buddhist traditions and Eastern philosophies to draw upon. So when they're in transition, it's kind of like do you outright reject vegetarianism if someone's in transition to vegan? No, it's a step, it's a stage. So that's the point. Is if you're in there, sort of pontificating and promoting it, I'm gonna call you out, But if you already maintain these kind of New Age concepts, I'm not going to condemn you for it, because it's part of the journey of learning.
Right. That's a good example. Yeah. I think that's a really good example, the way you compared to like the vegetarianism,
Yeah.
yeah. And so, I mean, I get it, because even though I don't really know much about New Age mysticism, but basically, it includes, making claims about things that can't be supported with evidence, and is therefore outside of the scope of biopantheism, you might say.
You know what? Let's say it's more of an aesthetic. It's like, crystals, healing energy. There's a lot of paganism in there, and Wicca, and the idea of magic, and it's essentially like Eastern philosophies, Eastern spirituality, combined with a lot of quantum physics language, and sort of the theories and the mentality of modern science kind of combined. It's like a repackaging of Eastern mysticism. I'll read you the definition of mysticism itself right here. It's the belief that union with or absorption into the deity or the absolute or the spiritual apprehension of knowledge inaccessible to the intellect may be attained through contemplation and self-surrender. It's a belief characterized by self-delusion. There's two definitions of mysticism. This is actually really important. So the first definition, it's the idea that through contemplation and sort of surrender and doing it on your own, apart from religion, you can apprehend, or you can perceive God. That's what mysticism means. So it's like, apart from churches and religious authority figures and revelation through scripture or conventional traditional religious structure, you can actually experience the divine on your own through contemplation, and it often has to do with more like intuitiveness, like feeling, like sensing and feeling, like with heart knowledge, as opposed to head knowledge, as opposed to using logic and reason. So that's the mystical thing. It's the idea of I don't believe in mysticism, just like the transcendent world or transcendence. I don't believe in mysticism, but I believe that someone can have a mystical experience. I believe that you can have mystical encounters. I believe that things can appear very mystical, and there's nothing wrong with that. A unicorn is a mystical creature. It's something from fiction, but yet it represents something. It's symbolic of of sort of higher empathic, emotional, ethical ideas.
It
symbolizes something. So
it means a lot to me, as you know.
Yeah. Well, that's a mystical concept, a magical animal. It's close to the idea of things that are magical, but mysticism is more like the practice or the belief. Trying to attune yourself with God in an emotional, empathic way. Okay, so that's not necessarily a bad thing, but you can see how it can be when you introduce all of these unsubstantiated concepts,
right?
Like spirit guides and ghosts, and again, there's a fine line there, because I actually believe in psychic abilities. I believe that extrasensory powers are where we're headed, and we're evolving to develop those. So I actually do believe in a lot of things that are involved in mysticism, mystical circles. But it's all about sort of having discernment and judging, what is verifiable and what is just theory, or what's just speculation. Now, the other definition of mysticism is in a negative context. It's actually, I'll read it, the belief characterized by self-delusion or dreamy confusion of thought, especially when based on the assumption of occult qualities or mysterious agencies. So I forgot to mention this, that mysticism goes hand in hand with the occult. And all the occult actually means is things that are hidden, things that are unknown, the esoteric, things that are forbidden knowledge. So alchemy and magic and mysticism all kind of go hand in hand. So the negative definition, the second definition of mysticism, means, you're all caught up and you're completely self-deluded. You're crazy. You're like you're thinking fanciful notions that there's no evidence for, essentially. So it can have a negative a negative definition as well. So that's the mysticism actually that I'm rejecting.
Yeah.
The mysticism that I don't really have a problem with is the idea that things can be mystical. See, it's the difference. So that I just wanted to clarify and make those distinctions.
Yeah, but it's still a lot to take in. I have a feeling though, if you and I spent more time together and we compare things like, well, this is mystical, like I would probably get it more, but it's still a word that I never use. I don't use words like spiritual, mystical, any of that ever.
Look at here's a good look at that image. Look at that image that is accompanying this post, Chandler. What do you see? Just describe it. Describe it in the most. Describe it in a very poetic way, and you'll start to grasp what mystical actually means.
Well, I'm not sure what a poetic way means, but it's basically a heart. It's a heart-shaped planet Earth with light coming out of it, and it's like in a weird cloudy rainbowish thing surrounding it.
Yeah, well, that's a good literal description of the image itself. But what does it say to you when you look at it? If you were to describe how it makes you feel, or what emotions, what does it stimulate in you? Like what, is it? How does it make you feel? Can you describe that when you look at it, when you stare at it?
Okay, let's see here.
Don't think. Just feel. Just describe your feelings as you're staring at it. Like if you could use adjectives, basically, like you're describing a piece of artwork.
But I have to think to use words. So
of course. What I mean is like try using a little more of your right brain as you describe it.
I don't know, man. Like I don't even know what you're talking about.
The right brain is the creative, abstract. The right hemisphere essentially deals with creativity, music, art, things like that. The left brain is ration, logic, mathematics, dealing with computation and sort of material things. The right brain is more abstract and poetic and creative. So I'm just saying, just describe the image and how it makes you feel when you look at it. Like, what does it represent to you? What do you think it represents?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's the picture of the Earth, and
But it's actually not an Earth, is it? It's actually a giant heart, or the heart shape, the traditional shape of the nostalgic idea of what a heart looks like. But it's a heart within a heart, and there's light erupting outward. But it's this rainbow of colors, and then you see it that you see Africa, you see Saudi Arabia, you see Asia and Europe and Russia there. Like you can see the continents. So you know that it represents something it's earthbound. It's almost biological. It's ecological. But it's also mystical because there's light coming out. There's this ethereal quality to it with these colors. There's a kind of a Elysian heavenly quality to it, and it looks powerful, and it looks sacred. It looks pure. It looks important, right? And at the center is a heart, and it's earth shaped. So it's kind of, if I could describe it, if I were to describe it, I would say it shows the importance of loving the earth, and it shows how magnificent and beautiful this planet, this terrestrial globe that we live on, really is. It's significant. It's sacred.
Yeah, I don't have a right brain.
All right, man. All right, we'll move along.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the
point. What I was trying to get at was this image is mystical, but the image doesn't convey mysticism, but it has a very mystical quality to it. That's all I was trying to say.
Yeah, so I may still never quite get the whole mystical thing, but I mean, it's a nice image. It's beautiful,
Chandler, do you believe in magic?
Well, it depends on what you mean.
I don't mean like stage, like illusion, like I don't mean like illusionary magic that performers do, but I mean, do you believe in real mystical magic, like Game of Thrones, like dragons and White Walkers, or unicorns, mythical beasts, or powers that we don't comprehend? Do you believe in that?
Well, no, not literally. See, here's the thing. When I think magic, here's what I think. I mean, I think of stuff like, say, Queen Elsa from Frozen, who has unlimited ice magic and freezes anything around her. I think of like Mario and the Fire Flowers and shooting fireballs. I think of like literally. Actually, yeah, that's pretty much it. When I think of magic, I think of something literally being able to make something where there was nothing, basically violating, the law of conservation of mass energy. That's what I think of when I think of magic, because that's how it's portrayed in video games and cartoons.
Sure.
So that's what I think of magic as. That, yeah.
Would you say, okay, so here's a few things I want to say real quick. Would you say that you don't believe in magic, and neither do I, but things can be magical, things can have a magical quality? Could you describe something as her dress just glittered, and the light, it just looked magical, it just looked so surreal and ethereal? Can you relate to that?
Let's see, what's something that would be magical? Like I'm
really just using the word as a parallel to the idea of mysticism and sort of the miraculous and stuff, because what I'm saying is all magic is it's the exemplified version of nature. It's taking nature and exaggerating it so that you're giving it qualities that it doesn't yet have, but you can kind of see it has the potential to have. Harry Potter, like wizards, sorcery, witches, and warlocks. That's magic, right? But essentially, everything they're doing, you can almost the reason we can comprehend it is because that's what nature does, and we're just taking it one step further. We're adding imagination to it and saying, well, what if nature worked like this? What if the natural world actually behaved in this way? What if the laws of physics could be broken or altered so that things have a different result and consequence and reaction? So that's all it is. So what I'm trying to say is, in a roundabout way, nature itself is magical and mystical and extraordinary and miraculous. Those are just adjectives. Okay. It doesn't mean that it necessarily coincides with our idea of what is magical. But what I'm saying is, in recognizing the wondrous, how about that word? The wondrous, extraordinary nature of nature, we develop a greater appreciation for it and a respect and a reverence for it that will actually lead to environmental ethics and veganism. You see what I'm trying to say? So that's what Biopan does. It puts the emphasis back onto the extraordinary and the wondrous aspects of the physical world in plants and animals, in biological systems, in the cosmos, the extraordinary forces and powers that are operating all around us at all times. So do you follow me? It's changing the emphasis away from an imagined fictional supernatural world and putting it onto the real world, the natural world. That it's naturalism. It's emphasizing these wondrous things that are all around us that we can explore and experience without appealing to supernaturalism, without invoking religious concepts, traditional religious concepts.
Well, how does this sound, Pafo? All of the things that we see as magic in movies or games or whatever, what they are literally is they are the forces of nature. Whether it's fire, ice, water, electricity, or whatever, and all these animals.
Oh, electricity was magic before it was understood. Lightning,
yeah,
earthquakes, storms, fire, all these things were magic before they were understood. Yeah, before they were proper, before we had the scientific method. Yeah.
And that's what I'm getting at, Pafo, is that all of these things that are depicted as magic in whether it's Harry Potter or Star Wars or whatever there may be, all of those things are things that already existed in nature, in the real world. And then the only difference is in these cartoons or movies, you have human beings who have the power to command nature at their will and do what they want. That's what a magician or a wizard does in those types of situations.
Right, and it's amazing how things come full circle, because what I am proposing, the teleological intent or the emergent quality of nature, is to produce biological life forms that will have the power to do just that, to reshape energy and matter, to reshape and manipulate their environments, as we are doing right now, but to a greater extent, to a greater degree. That's why it says it centers around the idea of an eminent, emergent divinity manifesting and expressing itself unconsciously through all life forms and coming into personal awareness and coherence presently through us. Because nature is unconscious right now, but it's operating, it's on autopilot. There's a latent memory of how things should be, and these are the laws of nature that end up producing biological life forms that can then manipulate and reshape their environment, and it will eventually coalesce and combine to become the mind, the brain, the collective consciousness of God. The collective consciousness of nature is evolving and manifesting through life forms. That's what we're trying to say, is that nature is the incomprehensibly vast being that people have personified and thought of as God, or invented their own version of, and yet, like, it's real. It's a real thing. It just doesn't have all the attributes that are commonly attributed to it. Like, as we said, omniscience and omnibenevolence, not yet, but it is becoming so. God, omnia, life, nature is evolving and becoming whole. It's becoming one gigantic singular organism. Right now, it's trillions of organisms spread out everywhere. But as we work together, as we evolve and adapt, and we learn to cooperate and behave more altruistically, we accept other parts of nature, and we combine to work in symbiosis and harmony with each other. I've spoken about this many, many, many times, but have you ever really gotten it? That, like, that's what life, that's what nature is doing. It is reconstituting itself intellectually, morally, and physically to a certain extent, in populations and species learn to coexist and live side by side in harmony with one another. That's what it's doing. It's a picture that all these little parts spread out, and they're all coming back together to work, as one body, as one cohesive whole. It's the Gaia theory. The Earth is alive. All living systems are alive. Cells are alive. The universe is alive. The whole of nature is alive and becoming conscious. And that is the miraculous sort of evolutionary aspect of Biopantheism, is that nature is coming back into coherence with itself. And I always say back into, because it's a cycle, because there is this concept that it's always happening in cycles, and it's revolving and transforming from what it was to what it will be, to what it will be again, to something else, back into coherence with itself. I know you might not be able to understand that, or you might not see that, but it's the trajectory. When we look into the future, when we see the evolution of species, of life forms, this is all involved in Biopantheism. This is the hope that we have, that we are moving toward more compassion, more empathy, more love and respect for one another and the planet, because we're all part of a gigantic system that is alive and speaking to us and growing and expanding. That is completely different than atheism and even generalized pantheism.
Yeah, I mean, there's still so much of it that I don't see where you're going with it, but I don't consider that to be the relevant part. I really don't.
Well, for the ones who speculate, for the futurists, for the evolutionary biologists, for the intellectuals, and for those who are contemplating these things, it's very important because it gives them a comprehensive ontological model. For people like you who are more practical and you just want to improve the quality of life, for animals and humans, for non-human animals and for humans. There's the practical takeaway. There's the how does it help the environment? How does it help the animals? And it's very important because you're just focusing on one aspect of it. That's fine.
Yeah, because that's all I care about.
Yeah, it's all included. I mean, it's all there. it's all in the philosophy itself. Is if we are not recycling, if we're not caring for the environment, if we're not treating other life forms with love and respect, then you're not a pantheist. You're not a biopantheist. That's the practical takeaway. Is you can't say, "Oh, the universe is divine, nature is divine, God is nature." All these things. Well, what does that mean? That means you are divine. That means my cat is divine. That means the person down the street next to you. That means the guy that cut you off in traffic, he's also divine. It means you have to treat everyone and everything with love and respect. So if you're not exhibiting those qualities, those ethical, moral ideals, are not being represented in your life, then it's useless. Philosophy is useless if it doesn't have a practical application. So that's what Biopan represents, is the practical application of all of these principles and concepts put into action, put out into the real world, with environmentalism, with being ecologically aware, with being a vegan, with taking care of your body.
Right. So and see, that's the major point that I care about, because with other philosophies, it's just a bunch of words people say, but they don't live by it. It doesn't affect their life in any way. And so it's the practical reason, like this is how you identify a biopantheist. That's very important for me, by their actions, by their respect for life, by veganism, all of these things. That's what's most important to me. That other stuff, I can take it or leave it personally.
Well, yeah, I understand. You just gravitate towards what's practical. I understand.
Yeah.
We can probably wrap it up in a little bit. We can quit it.
Yeah.
My time at 7:20. We quit like 7:30 or something. But I did want to read one thing that actually ties right into what you're just talking about ethics and morality in pantheism, because since it's not included, in generalized pantheism, I've always felt that it was so important that we see that there's a logical trajectory to this concept, to this idea, that without actually doing something, without actually taking this in an altruistic direction, then it's useless. I don't know what pantheism is for other people if it doesn't involve love and respect for life. You know what I mean? So this was something that it was like a post that Peter had created a long time ago. Just a second. And essentially, like, people, there was a very negative response. Like people were like, don't impose morality. Don't ruin a good thing. Pantheism doesn't need ethics. It's just going to end up being another religion. Blah blah blah. And I always said, how can it not? I mean, how can it? It seems like a no-brainer. So let me read this, and then we can wrap it up. Ethics and morality in pantheism. Roughly 3 years ago, on a pantheist Facebook page I was heavily involved with, a friend of mine created a post asking a question of whether or not pantheism as a whole should define its ethical positions, and if we should seek to influence others to share a common set of morals and values within the pantheist community at large. much. I was astonished by the overall lack of unity and cohesion in the comments being posted, and in people's stolid unwillingness to take a positive stance on the position. In response to this, I hurriedly typed up a list of 10 things, as well as several other critical points that I believe were a good general assessment of the kind of ethical/moral attitudes and attributes pantheists should display. My goal was to instigate discussion specifically on what positive steps or actions could be taken to facilitate a push toward an ethical standard that could eventually be implemented in a useful and practical way. See, that's exactly what we're talking about. Here was my response. Yes, pantheists should be sharing the same basic ethical views, starting with what should be self-evident. You say you believe the cosmos and nature are divine. Well, how do you treat the divine? With love and respect. That means if you're a pantheist, there is no racism, sexism, bigotry, greed, violence, selfishness, or destructive egotism in the equation. Everything is an expression of God, so everyone and everything should be honored and appreciated for the visible manifestations of life that they are. Let me make it more specific, and no one should be afraid to say this. If you are a pantheist, you should love animals and nature, understand and believe in evolution, as it is vital to our understanding of ourselves and where we came from, not believe in traditional anthropomorphic God. That's a fundamental distinction there. Not believe in a supernatural realm or life after death, except in terms of the continuation of your thoughts and ideas through others, or the replication of various aspects of yourself through your children genetically. Care about the environment, something green, with a general attitude of sustainability and holistic global thinking. Be well-read in science, astronomy, and biology. Not really a requirement in so much as it is a notable sign that you are already a pantheist. Care about your health and the health of others. Care about the planet. No explanation necessary. Be presently minded and focused on the real world. Exhibit a profound emotional reaction to nature, space, and the outdoors, expressed by feelings of reverence, wonder, and awe for the beauty, complexity, power, and intelligence of the natural world. These are just examples. I could go on, but my point is, if you're not exhibiting these qualities, it's unlikely you're really a pantheist. In terms of sharing similar attitudes and what classifies a pan in the area of values, let me sum it up by saying this. I think pantheists and pantheism as a philosophy should exhibit and represent the highest level of morality possible within any given system. We should be lovers of peace and lovers of knowledge. We should be civil, strive toward excellence, unity, and cooperation. Value intelligence. Be intelligent, well-educated, well-read, compassionate, kind, caring, considerate, loving, responsible, and respectful. The Boy Scout code comes to mind. Trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. That's the Boy Scout code. I can't believe I still remember that. Beyond all this, or maybe preceding it, there should be an acute awareness of the profound connection we all share. As Neil deGrasse Tyson put it, we are all connected to each other biologically, to the earth chemically, to the rest of the universe atomically. That means you treat everyone and everything with kindness and respect. Of course, the other side of the coin is you should also vehemently challenge, resist, and oppose anything that represents the antithesis of these values. You should strive toward equality, integrity, and a life of virtue. You should value truth and be as honest as possible at all times. Basically, we should be what all Christians claim to be: people of integrity, wholly focused on personal growth, and ever seeking a greater understanding and awareness of our divine connection to each other and to the planet. Lovers of knowledge and lovers of the earth, living close to the land, supporting small communities, and rejecting big government, political corruption, greed, and injustice. Embracing clean technology and advancements in science and education, desiring always to broaden our understanding of ourselves and the world around us. We should be actively taking part in the evolution of our species and contributing to and promoting greater awareness and higher levels of consciousness with the goal of creating a better world. They say many pantheists are rebels, and historically speaking, this may be true, but you should only be rebelling against what is destructive and unhealthy, namely the archaic religious and socio-political systems that seek to control and manipulate others using guilt or fear, as well as anyone, religious or otherwise, who stifles your creativity or lies to you and promotes false hope, or, especially as in the case of Christianity and Islam, longs for chaos and the destruction of our planet. They're obsessed with the end times, the end of the world, Armageddon. Likewise, you should reject anything that leads to stratification, disorder, and disunity. Your attitude and focus should be geared toward the highest good. Whatever actions and behaviors promote health and prosperity for the individual as well as the whole, etc., etc. Take it or leave it. Those are my thoughts and convictions. I've been thinking about these things for a very, very long time.
Well, I'm down with that.
So that, to me, is pantheism, and that's biopantheism. That's what pantheism represents, and that's what my form of pantheism, biopan, that is a good summation, encapsulation of what it represents. So if anyone out there is interested, look for it. Just Google Biopantheism. It's one word, Biopantheism. Just Google it, and pretty much everything that comes up, all the images, all the links and stuff, will lead you back to Facebook groups, to YouTube channel, to my website, to previous podcasts with Chandler. I mean, your face is all over the place. Did you Google Biopan last time?
Yeah, I Googled it. I'm in most of that stuff, it seems.
How many photos came up of you? Yeah, because we've done so many podcasts together. We've done so many online talks and stuff. So, yeah, you're a big part of this, man. You're helping me get the word out, and I'll be forever grateful to you.
Yeah, well, I agree, man. I mean, there's gotta be ethics, or a philosophy is dead, It's kind of like the thing in the Bible about, faith without work.
Book of James, faith without works is dead. Book of James, yeah.
Yeah, and the meaning is you can tell who believes what by their actions. That's the important thing,
Oh, by their knowledge. I believe that most decent, kind-hearted, ethical people, if they knew the atrocities and what was taking place in factory farms, if they knew how their food, food was processed and acquired, and what it went through before it got to their plates, I don't believe that they would continue consuming it. I think it's all about the dissemination of knowledge, expanding our consciousness, enlarging our circle of compassion. So people have the potential. They all have the potential. It's just about educating and informing.
Right, and that's the whole point, because the idea is that they will change as soon as they really know what's going on. That's the idea.
Their own consciences will, just show them the footage, give them the information. Their own consciences will do the rest. We focus a lot on veganism and animal rights, the animal rights issues. Obviously, I'm animal rights activist. You can see my the anonymous mask behind me right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
We focus on this a lot, but this includes corruption in government. It includes all of these things. That's why the Venus Project, the Zeitgeist movement, that's the political aspect of biopan. It's a resource-based economy, doing away with plant obsolescence, instituting a new economic system that is based on access to resources instead of perpetuating the idea of scarcity in capitalism, which is just a fight culture. It's all predicated on greed and competition. That's the exact opposite of what constitutes a healthy, thriving ecosystem. It's all about symbiosis, cooperation, harmony, and peace, not constantly at war. So biopan, it's political, it's philosophical, it's spiritual, it's ethical, it's practical, it's all of these things. So if anyone has any questions, I'll put some links in the description box below, and we'll have leave it open for comments and feedback.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think that just about covers it, Pafo. Is that all you need to say before I end it?
Yeah, man. Yeah, thank you, Chandler Klebs. I do appreciate you taking the time, and I know you didn't always understand everything, but you will. Knowledge, lack of knowledge, being ignorant is just the state of that we're in before we become educated. Just think of it like that.
All right. Well, thanks again, Pafo, for another great talk, and thanks for anybody who put up with all that. Thanks for listening. Good night, everybody.
This is our source. This is our life. This is who we are. Please visit our website for more information about this life-changing philosophy. You can also join our Facebook groups by following the links provided in the description box below, and find fellowship with others who share these same ethics and ideals. Whoever you are not alone. The whole universe resides within you. Now and forever, in nature we trust.